So much fun. Thank you so much for joining us in a little bit of community fun building. Our values are God, community, and growth. And so we play Kahoot for a couple of reasons. We play Kahoot because it's fun. We play Kahoot because it just gets you engaging with your community here. And so we're just really excited about that and engaging online because the forum is going to be online. And so we've got, even in this room, you're going to have your phones out. You also have your tables around you. So the physical tables that you're on will help you with having conversations with others. And so when you look around you, if you have nobody else at your table, then join a table that has people so that there could be conversation, because we're going to be breaking out into conversation. But also on Slack, there are 3 tables, there are 3 channels that are posted. It's Vision Table 1, Vision Table 2, and Vision Table 3. So please join one of those tables right now, and we are going to engage that and have conversation through these channels. And so somebody, I think, is going to. Could someone please post Vision, the hashtag Vision 1, Vision 2, Vision 3? It's posted higher in the Slack dialogue, but. Thank you very much. Someone says that, Pastor Danielle, you're looking lovely today, and so just wanted to acknowledge that. And someone else, actually, my wife posted that we need some help with a grant that's coming up on November the 4th. We're hosting it here at this building, and it's supporting Tottenham Junior A hockey team, so please join the grant channel for that, and also comment to Valerie on Slack right now. Let me bring us into prayer as we step into this discussion about the vision that I've been presenting for 4 weeks, and I do understand that it's a challenging vision, and so we genuinely need God in this. So let me open up in prayer, and then we'll intro into our discussion. Jesus, we need you. I think of Gideon, when the angel of the Lord came to Gideon in the threshing field when he was in the wine press threshing wheat, which is completely a redundant exercise. And the angel of the Lord says, "O valiant warrior." And Gideon looks around and says, "Who, me?" I feel like us as Promised Church can look around right now and say, "Who, me? Why? Why me? We're not ready. We couldn't do this." But then, God, you put an army of people around Gideon. And you supplied him with 30,000 men. And then you really, really said, you know what? You don't need 30,000. You don't even need 10,000. Just take these few. And your reasoning behind it was so that you could say, so that when you see victory, you will know that it was the Lord your God that saved you from the Midianites. And Jesus, we need you, and you have called us to plant church so that when we see victory, we will know that it was not by our strength, not by our wisdom, not by our own understanding, not by our own power, but by the power of the Holy Spirit. We need you to be leading us and guiding us. We need you in every way, Jesus. And so today, as we discuss, I pray that we will become aware of our desperate need for you, but also our sure set that this is what you are calling, this impossible thing. You're calling this church into existence. And so, Jesus, we pray that you would be glorified in our discussion today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I hope that you join one of those tables on Slack. Today, our discussion format will be around tables. So this first question is actually going to be a question that we're going to ask that's going to come out of a scripture reading. And so we're going to read Luke chapter 10, verses 1 to 12. I'm going to read that, and if you have a digital Bible or an actual Bible, I encourage you to open it up right now because it's not going to show up on the screen. I don't think it will. Will it? Of course it will. Awesome. I don't know why I didn't think it was going to. I thought we just had the community stuff. So Luke chapter 10 is an amazing passage. Someone asked on Slack last week, they said, what is the scriptural basis or the scriptural model for this plant. And we had never really been, out there with it. And so I want to read this because this is going to be it. So reflect on this. And while you're hearing the story, the question that you're going to discuss is, how should Promise Church plant? So we're looking for the hows that come out of the text. All right, here's the text today. After this, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them on ahead of him, 2 by 2, into every town and every place where he himself was about to go. And he said to them, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly into the harvest. Go your way. Behold, I'm sending you as lambs into the midst of wolves. Carry no money bag, no knapsack, no sandals, and greet no one on the road. Whatever house you enter, first say, 'Peace be to this house.' And if a son of peace is there, your peace will rest upon him. But if not, it will return to you. And remain in the same house, eating and drinking what they provide, for the laborer deserves his wages. Do not go from house to house. Whenever you enter a town, they receive you. Eat what is set before you. Heal the sick in it, and say to them, 'The kingdom of God has come near you.' But whenever you enter into a town, and if they do not receive you, go into the streets and say, 'Even the dust of your town that clings to our feet, we wipe off against you. Nevertheless, know that the kingdom of God has come near. I tell you, it will be more bearable on that day for Sodom than for that town.'" So I'm going to encourage you to gather at a table and answer this question. How, according to this verse, according to Luke 10, 1-12, how should Promise Church plant? And we're going to ask you to discuss that and then start uploading the answers of your discussion onto Slack. So how should Promise Church plant? Go ahead and get into a discussion. So we're going to start sharing what was said at the different tables and expanding on Luke 10 for a moment. So if we can just circle back. If you're still typing something into table 3, then that would be awesome. Still typing into table 1, that would be awesome. Since my table has a lot of different things, I'll just start off. Somebody at my table said, in a community where there isn't a lot of people who believe in God, or where the dominant religion is not Christianity. So in reading Luke 10, the idea is that we should be going into a community where the dominant religion is not Christianity. Someone said, begin with prayer for workers and expect rejection, and be prepared to move on. Really interesting. Someone who's running solo today, means that they're online. They saw this passage, and there are 3 things: to pray, to go into the community, and to do. So those were some good things. What's going on at your table?
Yeah, so I've got let God provide and guide us along the way by finding the place where God has people ready. Prepare yourself for others rather than for yourself. And we should start with prayer, asking God for his guidance so we can be aligned with his vision.
Yeah, I have some very practical ones here. So by remembering that God is and continues to make things happen, having faith that what is meant to be, God will provide. First, prayer, then follow. And third, do God's work and God will provide, so don't worry about money and food, etc. In teams of at least 2, expect a harvest among your community, and I think the teams aspect is important. Only small teams, and let the community form around the church, not the community. And I really like that. It's the idea, he sends 72 out, and then in pairs, because the accountability is important, and there needs to be support systems in place, so.
Yeah, I thought that's a really good point. Somebody pulled out the pairing, that you're not sent alone. You're never sent alone to do the kingdom work, and because God's kingdom calls us together. That's what God's kingdom does. So it's kind of contradictory to be just sent out alone. It's like, go in pairs, go together. Really, really good insight.
Yeah, I just want to focus on one of them by finding the place where God has people ready. And it talks about finding people of peace and going and looking for the people who are already looking for God. And I like the Holy Spirit goes before us. The Holy Spirit is already doing a work in people's hearts. And it's up to us to just go and ask the Holy Spirit to show the people that he's already working on. It's not really about us. It's about what God's doing in the community.
So someone at my table, sorry, I'm going to interrupt Devin. I saw you there, but I think someone at my table said something really similar to that. I think we have to focus on the fact that God's calling there to be a church there already. So it's not about us saying we have to put a church there. It's about going to where God is already calling people to gather and find him and help fulfill his call there. And, finding the people of peace that are God's already stirring the heart of people in that community that we're going to be looking at and saying, yeah, let's do that. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, and based off of where this is coming from, the idea that the harvest is plentiful and the laborers are few, it's so easy for us to just get comfortable with what we're doing, and the challenge of there's so much more that we could be doing, and the worst thing we could do as a church is just say, yeah, this is a great community and it's amazing and healthy, so we're just going to keep it to ourselves, even though there's so much out there. There will always be more to do, so it doesn't matter. There's no ceiling on how much we could grow and continue to build community.
Yeah, someone at my table said something like that too. Before even thinking of starting a gathering, go and serve the community. Talk to people where they are at and see if they are receptive. If not, don't fight. If not, don't fight and walk away.
That was a huge piece that comes out in the passage, right? Because in the passage, it says, go and heal the sick. It's a go and do. Bring healing into that community. And so work with integrity. You come alongside, just like that person on Slack said, you come alongside, you work with integrity, but then you also proclaim truth into that. I think on General, I posted a Slack picture earlier that said, it was to the effect of, if we just proclaim truth and treat each other like garbage, we undermine the very truth that we proclaim. And so it's work with integrity, and I see that in this passage in Luke, where it's like, go and do work. So we have promise grants. Mm-hmm. We have street meet and greets. We have things that build community that start to bring this out, and we do it with integrity. What are we healing? We're healing the loss in the community, the loss of a sense of togetherness. In our culture, we're so much individualized, and God's like, no, I want to call people together. I want to call us together to do the work of God together. And so much is coming in. There was one that came in on my table that's a little bit controversial. So let's discuss this for a second. This one says, go with faith. It happens to be a pastor's wife. Go with faith.
But Derek's not here.
You don't need... Wow. Spiritual moment here. Spiritual moment. Go with faith. You don't need $1 million to back up supplies or things to plant. Oh, wait a second. Doesn't that go against one of our metrics? Interesting. So what do you guys think of that? Go with faith. You don't need a money bag. You don't need all the things. And one of our metrics is healthy financially. So let's talk about that for a second. What do you guys think? It's right here. So whatever.
Yeah,
what do you think?
it's true. God will provide and God will do. And as an organization, there's still an element of what we're doing where there's an organizational piece where during the week there are people responsible for making sure this gathering is happening. And in the Bible, Paul talks a lot about the sharing of resources of the community that is for the benefit of the community. And so money just doesn't disappear from that equation. Healthy finances allows us to continue to do mission. And as soon as money becomes, it's about, the greed of pastors and the salaries and it just becomes so internally focused, then we run into a serious issue. But I think that's where we have our promised grants and our commitment to keep that in our financial. We talk about it every week because that keeps us accountable to the mission of God and what He's doing. That's at least a start, I think.
It's a good start, yeah.
Well, and I think healthy finances doesn't mean overabundance, let's have the biggest and the brightest and the best here and forget everywhere else. I think it means
rich church.
Yeah, we're not going to be a rich church. It doesn't mean spending it on us. It means being able to pay the bills here so we can go to another place and plant there. And so when we think healthy finances, we don't think like, oh, now we can get Floors. No, I think we should have floors. That kind of thing. It means being in a place of health so that we can meet in multiple locations.
It really does mean saying, God, you're providing for us.
Yep.
God, you're taking care of us. And that's what Jesus is actually talking about here, where he's like, go and don't think about your needs first. Think about this and say, God, you're going to take care of us. You're going to provide in all these amazing ways. And I truly believe that God is going to provide the simple finances that we do need to actually make it happen. Like at the end of the day, we can't rent a school without the little bit of money that we need to rent the school. At the end of the day, we can't do certain things. So there are certain places where it's like, okay, well, you go in faith and God is going to provide. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, I have one more, Rob. So even just in the passage, stay in the house, eating and drinking what they provide, for the laborer is deserving of his wages. So it doesn't just come out of the picture that there's some level of financial element. I mean, these are God's resources, though. Money and culture is it's a pretty challenging conversation because you don't know where people stand, you don't know how they see money, but the general bend of money is it's mine, and don't take my money. And with a healthy financial perspective that the Bible brings, that Jesus brings, the idea of people deserving of what he's providing and allowing us to see, no, this is the work that's required, these are the resources that's required, but then also recognizing this is God's. God is managing these finances. He's the one that we are responsible, that we are held accountable to at the end.
And I think that there's another piece on this. So this is where this fits, and I didn't know where it was going to fit, but it actually fits right here. This morning in my prayer time, sometimes when I pray, I'm like just praying. And our whole next sermon series is on prayer that works and just teaching how to pray. But this morning in my prayer time, I felt God actually speaking to me in a pretty powerful way. And God was like, lead people into their desperate need for me. As a pastor, God is challenging me to lead us into a place where we recognize and embrace our desperate need for God. That's huge. Because we like to be self-sufficient people. We like to have order, and we like to have things taken care of. We like to have our ducks in a row. And God is saying, lead people into a place where they know their desperate need for me. So, desperate need for repentance and for God to change our hearts. A desperate need for reliance on God for the day-to-day elements of my life. Give me my daily bread. And sometimes when Jesus challenges here in Luke and says, don't take your money, he's saying, don't hold on to the things that you're going to feel secure about. And for us as a congregation, there's a piece here where it's like, maybe that's me. What am I holding on that makes me feel secure? What am I holding on to that makes me feel like, I got this. I'm like Gideon with 30,000 men. This is easy. Let's go do this. And God's like, no, whittle it down to 3. 27,000 men given up. Maybe it's I've got $30,000 in the bank, and God goes, whittle it down to 300. Nope, bad idea, God. Bad idea, God. Oh, but there's biblical precedent. And so that's where, for me, lead people into their dependence on God. And there's something here that's happening there that I think God's speaking to and being involved. So yeah, we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna be doing this, and God is good. So it's in Luke 10. It's don't go with all this stuff. So yeah, very good. Someone actually, yeah, that's really good. Okay, should we move on? Are we okay?
So I'm going to introduce the next section. So this week we were talking about the forum.
Should we reenact it?
No, we won't reenact it. But we were talking about what questions we're going to talk about at the forum. And you have to remember context. We've been talking about the church plant for more than a year now. It's been in our staff discussions. It's been in our communication with our teams. Slowly, we're planting seeds. And this series, although it seems to kind of come out of nowhere, organizationally, it's been happening for quite a while for us. But it kind of led us thinking, okay, so there were a few things Rob said explicitly in this message series. One of them was, we're not splitting our community. So you don't have to feel like we're taking people away from this community and that's going to be necessary. Number two, you don't have to give more. We're a healthy financial church. We have healthy finances. We have good perspective on finance. So we're not expecting you to have to give more than you already are to support this church. And then the last thing is that, this is at least a year or two away. So then the question kind of became, well, all of those seem so far removed from you as a congregation. And the question that comes out of it is, why do you care? That's the really blunt way of putting it. Why do you care that we're planting if it's not going to affect you? And in this session, we kind of want to just address some of those points. And so the question is, what is your role in this whole process, and why does it matter? So I think that's a good...
What a challenge. Yeah. Right? And this question doesn't come just out of our discussion. This comes out of Slack conversations where people are like, wait, I don't understand what's going on here. What's the role that we're doing here? Maybe you've already had this question. You could start commenting on Slack tables. This is a place for you to start getting your questions out. What does it mean for us to do this? What is a role? Let's get some clarity here on terms of what does it mean to church plant and when and how and all this stuff. So right now, while we start talking, I want you to be on Slack just asking questions. Just be like, wait, let's get clarity. And we've had some of this already. So what's the role? What is the role that we have on this whole church plant? And one of them is we need a desperate reliance on God. We need to recognize that God, our vision is every community experiencing God. And we have to rely on God to be able to make that happen. So for us, the first thing that we're looking at is prayer. We need to be praying about this. This isn't a matter of strategy. This isn't a matter of oh, well, yeah, this is just what we're going to do. We need to be praying about this. We need to be saying, God, how are you going to do this? God, what would you like me to do in this? How would you like me? So we need you to be joining prayer services. And guess what? We don't even have midweek prayer services yet. So that's something that we, I don't know if anybody's got an opinion about that, but that's something that we need to put in. We need to start doing prayer services. And so we have to do that.
Yeah. Another thing is, if you're already serving at Promise Church, there's definitely going to be some level of challenge where your role at this church is vital to its continued functioning. As the pastors, as us as pastors begin to spread ourselves in wherever we end up in these plants, we're still having discussions about that, but wherever we go, our main role is to make sure that we are keeping places healthy by raising up leaders and volunteers that can keep this community operating. Just a very practical, strategic role. So if you are involved, your responsibility should begin to feel a little stronger because you are going to be the ones that begin representing us. You already represent us now, but it will be even more so because now as we start to spread over Bradford and we start to implement the same kind of culture and same teams and start delegating and managing that kind of stuff, your roles here become a little, I don't want to say stressful because that's not what it is, because we're doing a good job. It's more just the weight becomes much greater in some way.
We're sharing
right.
responsibility.
Right.
And we're saying, hey, this is something you can get involved in. And we're already starting to see that. You'll notice that a whole bunch of people just left the sanctuary. It's not because we said something offensive. It's because there's a team that's running behind the staff that's setting up and saying, hey, this is our role now. Let's do this. And we're seeing that more and more.
And the other thing we want to do is our grants program. As we do things in the community, as we do things in integrity and have a reputation, then that will help us as we go into other communities. They'll be like, oh, oh, you're the church that showed up at the grand parade. Oh, you're the church that runs the barbecue. Oh, you're the church that, and we build our reputation, we build who we are, and it shows that we have integrity, that we're not just an inward-focused church, that we actually care about the town of Bradford, so that when people drive by, we have this saying we've been using called paint the town yellow. So right now you see our yellow flags and our yellow signs. And I think Rob mentioned it in one of his sermons that when people drive by and see our yellow signs, we want them to equate that with the church that actually does something in the town of Bradford, the church that's willing to get outside of its four walls. So being involved in our promise grants, they are still coming fast and furious. I am determined to spend all of Rob's money by the end of this year because I think it is such a testimony of who God is and that we are a people that love our community.
And the love of our community is what Jesus said, that they will know that you are my disciples because of your love for each other. They will know that you're my disciples because you're there, you're supporting, you're practical, you're part of the community. We're not this separated people. So this church, what's your role? Your role is to live with integrity. Over the summer, we have had multiple different people preaching from the front. We've had an amazing speaker. Mark Dean came and taught us a lot about evangelism. We've had Pastor Danielle has spoken here. We have other people that are willing to step up and start to preach. And to be completely honest, I'm still going to be preaching here. I'm going to be here as well, and we're going to be preaching, and we're going to be seeing all of that happen. Pastor Danielle, I actually want to, we have come to a resolution on this. Pastor Danielle is going to be our site pastor here, who's just going to help coordinate everything and make sure that everything's running. Pastor Devin's going to be worship pastor, centralized, and helping all of the churches and all of the teams make decisions that affect Sunday morning. And I'm going to be in this church preaching. I'm going to be in the other church preaching, and we're just going to be team orienting a lot of stuff. So we're going to stay with roles that we need this church to have integrity, to be who you are, because that's exactly what it is that we're moving forward with. That's the template. 5 years of this church bringing health into this community can't stop, and so that's our role. That's what's going on. Sorry, is there a question? Any questions on tables?
It's not a question, but it is. I'm hoping I can get clarity. But someone said, I feel like our community is going to be rotating a lot, and I'm not sure exactly what that's asking. But if it's coming out of this, I imagine it's related to the pastors kind of being in between churches, or community in different communities. And so I wonder if we want to address how does the community structure work? Different sites. This one exists, another one exists, but we're all the same banner. How does that look practically?
Yeah, so as Rob said, I am going to be staying here at 66 Berry Street, so I will be the pastor in this location. We're calling it Campus Pastors.
Site Pastors.
Site Pastors. We keep changing the name. It says Site Pastor on the wall, so that's what it is. And Rob will be, his title will be Lead Pastor, so with our next site, he will go forward as he is very good at doing, and Devin will be helping with that. And all of you are very welcome to stay here with me. If you catch the vision, you're welcome to help out with Rob. But what we really want is new people in the community that we're going to, because there are so many people that need the Lord. And we need to be in that community and finding those people, either people who are, we call them displaced Christians, but people who maybe went to church a while ago but haven't been going in a while, or maybe they moved quite a ways out from their home churches and don't go anymore and are looking for a church community, and then those that don't know Christ. Because this is a town of 45,000. There are lots of people that need Jesus in this town. So that's kind of how we're going to work it. As Rob says, when he's going to be back here as our lead pastor, casting vision and telling us what we're doing. And I'm sure Devin will visit us every once in a while. But
oh, for sure. So somebody, I think I actually understand the question. I feel like there's a rotating thing that's going to happen. It's not going to feel like rotating. Because it's not going to feel like, oh, well, who's going to be here on a Sunday? Danielle is going to be the anchor here. She's just going to be here. I will be either sitting in the sanctuary on a Sunday, and this is for years to come. I'm going to be sitting in the sanctuary in here on a Sunday, and I'm going to be preaching sometimes, or a good chunk of time, and that's what's going to be happening. A lot of the work on church planting is going to be happening during the midweek, and I think that that's something where we haven't really been super clear about. If we look at, I posted a box hedge vision proposal. And you guys can go read this, but there are some steps in it towards the end of it, and it's stages. So this stage has been planting the vision. We're just informing the congregation, saying, hey, this is what's happening. This is what God is putting on us. And we're going to sit in this stage for a while. And we're going to sit, and we're going to keep on doing church like normal. Nothing's changing. Then we're going to change some organizational structure stuff. And we're going to start seeing people, it's not going to feel any different, but for example, one change is Danielle has been head of hospitality. Well, the hospitality team still stays the same, but we're transitioning to Pastor Devin being head of hospitality. That's it. There's no rotation happening. It's just, who do I communicate to? Well, now you communicate to Pastor Danielle. So we're just going to make some organizational changes over the next year and a bit until we're fully ready. Then, that's when I, as the church planter, start going midweek into the community that God has laid on our heart, which at this time, we are praying about the Dreamfield community. We're praying about Harvest Hills, the public school, Dreamfield community. We're praying about the place north of Line 8. And there's a whole community there that has no church. And I'm going to be walking into that community, and I'm going to be looking for people of peace during the week. On Sunday, I'll be here. You're still going to hear me preach. You're still going to see me. There's no rotation going on. And then, finally, when we have the core and we cast the vision with the core, we've got the people, we start to see, hey, here's a worship leader. Hey, here's a tech team leader. Hey, here's a hospitality leader. We start doing that. We start to put that in place. And then start a Sunday morning service. And then they have their own team. They've got their own group of people. They've got their own people that Pastor Devin is going to manage during the week and say, hey, this is what happens. So we start to see that, no, we're not abandoning, or somebody actually asked me, are we leaving 66 Berry Street orphans? Absolutely not. We are working alongside, and a lot of the work of planting a church, it took me 4 years to plant Promise Church as it is now. This is going to take background work, and it's all behind the scenes, because that's the type of work that lasts. It's not work that just, we decided and next week we're going to open up a service. No, there's a matter of joining in, and that's what's happening here in this service.
Someone asked the question, how does this affect new people attending services or inviting new people? What do we say about how things run? Do you want to take that, or do you want me to take it? Sure. So basically, you would invite new people to where you attend. It's just like you would with any church. So if you have a friend and you want them to come to church with you, and you are attending Berry Street, you bring them to Berry Street. If you're attending Harvest Hills, we'll call it, then you take them to Harvest Hills. And most of the stuff, it will just kind of run like that. Some of the joint things that will be happening between the churches is we will have one youth group, and that will meet. So all of the youth will meet at the one youth group, and right now that's happening here at Berry Street because we have this building all week. When we do something like Carrot Fest, we'll do that all together as a church, as a group of churches. Am I missing anything else? That kind of thing. So we will function in the broader things as like one community, but you will take your friends to your community.
So 2 comments that just happened on my table. The first one is the church I attend in Florida has multiple sites and site pastors, and it works pretty well. So there's a little bit of breathe easy. It is a model that does happen, and it does work well, so thank you for that. The other one is, how does a shared church finance work? Is it between churches, and will church tithing be combined? We will have one centralized church bank account that will cover all of the expenses, and we'll make sure that we manage healthy finances so we're not overspending and running huge amounts of deficit. We're going to have just one church bank account. All the tithing goes to one central pot, and that will manage all of of what's happening throughout. Because the vision of us as a church is every community experiencing God. And so we're all vesting into that together. And so, yes, thank you for that question.
I was going to say, we're already kind of in the last section because we're answering questions, but to kind of go back to the question of, so why does it matter to you? Finances is actually a good question. So how will shared finances affect, different sites? It will, because if we're working under the same goal and same organization, there may be things that we give to as an organization that you will not see direct responses to because you're part of something larger. I don't know if that makes sense. So if let's say Promise Church 66 Berry Street are the majority of our giving base. You guys are the ones with the building, for example. Our other churches are not going to have a building. And so there's going to be conversations, there will inevitably be discussions about, well, why are our floors still like this? And, why can't we fix the lights? And why can't, so there are going to be real, small technical things that I'm sure will come up because we have to remember that as we plant in these multiple sites, our vision is bigger than us now. And so we will be working together financially to make Bradford saturated with Promise Church and with the culture and with what God's doing here. So I think that's a good transition too into the questions probably, right? We're just taking questions now. So the last, Jacob, if you want to throw it up, the actual last question is, what are the questions you guys have? Just officially, I guess.
So I'm actually going to let you pause, sit back in your table group, and just ask that question to your group and just discuss questions and be like, hey, I don't understand this. And I'm sure there's going to be questions that you guys have. Don't try to answer them. Just try to understand the questions and then reflect them up here. We'll take the last few minutes and go through questions. So discuss among your group, and I'd love to hear some feedback. Okay, there are some really good questions that have come in, so if you're able to type questions. Such a good question. Oh, I just love it. Okay, if you have a question at your table, go ahead. Let's take them.
Okay, so this question says, as a pastor of a local church, he or she is supposed to guard this flock and feed this flock because he or she knows and loves this flock. Wouldn't preaching the same sermon series at multiple sites make it too generic?
What a good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Do you want me to answer it, or do you want to answer it?
You go ahead.
Okay. How we're going to do it is we're going to work as a team, and this is a great question because we're going to work as a team to prepare the sermons, but of course, I'm going to be preaching to the people I'm preaching to at my location and the people that I know, and I'm going to be telling the stories from my life. And the person who's preaching at the other site is going to be preaching the same topic, but with the people that they have in their church in mind and with their own stories and with the way they're doing it. So it's not like we're going to be preaching from a transcript that doesn't move and I'm just going to stand at the front and read something out. We're still going to be preaching to our people because you're absolutely right. We need to have a message for the people that are in the location that we are preaching at.
What a great question that is. I just love that, and I just want to tack on to that. Every preacher that preaches at Promise Church must be praying about what is God saying to this community. And we already have that established in our culture, and we're going to keep on doing it. So yeah, that's a very good.
And I also want to add, so I'm preaching next Sunday, and this week, Rob and I were working on my sermon together, and so I can write it, and then he gives me feedback, and it just makes it better. I feel like we're going to get better sermons, better preaching out of that because it's not just one person writing it down. It's right now two, but it will be a group of us interacting, digging deeper, asking questions, and what do we really need to learn from this passage? So I think that's going to be good.
That point is also, you said, oh, well, I spoke into yours. The evangelism sermon series, Mark Dean spoke into the sermons that I was speaking that made it richer and stronger. So this isn't about a hierarchy. This is about shared responsibility because the Holy Spirit works through all of us who have been called to preach, and we're going to work together. Okay, lots of great questions coming in. Someone just said, why are we planting a church 5 minutes away? Wouldn't it be better financial management to only pay and rent one building, one set of leadership, at least until we're closer to outgrowing the space?
I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Guys, we are already close to outgrowing this space.
It's true.
We are a church of about 100 people, 120 people. This building will hold about 150 people comfortably. So we are actually kind of at capacity. And as a church, we have a decision to make, and we have to decide, are we going to just sit here and get wider, or are we going to go out and get wider in terms of geography? Now, the typical larger church model would be exactly that. Well, why don't we just put all the resources into one central area, and we'll put all of our resources here, and we'll get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we can minister to all of Bradford. But the problem that we have at least been feeling God has really challenged us with is a lot of the feedback you guys have already given us and that we're seeing in our community is you guys like a church of 100 people, because this is where you guys come and feel community. Everyone knows everybody. Everybody can communicate with everybody. And if you grow past a certain number, there's stats on this. There's church research on this. Now, when you start getting church past about 150 people, you start losing that sense of connectivity, because now you become an organization. It's easier for you to come in, to be invisible, to get out, and no one's going to interrupt you. And you'll notice that a lot of churches that are larger have the kind of culture where it's all about accessibility and it's about you being able to access it. And that's okay to some degree. But the community that we love here, that makes us who we are, we can't experience it. We just can't. The data shows it. We are feeling it in prayer. This isn't something you can experience in a larger setting. And then the question of, so why 5 minutes away? Honestly, it's kind of simple math. There's, 40,000, 30,000 people in Bradford?
Right now, 36,000, but we're scheduled to move up to 74 to 80,000 in the next 5 years.
Right. Now, 30,000 people in Bradford cannot be ministered to by 150 people. So if we as a church say, this is the kind of culture we want to create, and this is the kind of culture that has been effective, that God has called us to, we just are incapable of ministering to 36,000 people and growing. So we have to find a solution. How do we minister to Bradford with Promise Church? How does Bradford grow? Because you guys all have a capacity. You all have a limit. We all have limited resources and time. And so we have to find a solution to expand with this type of culture in Bradford. And that's why it's kind of a challenge for us, because most churches don't do it this way. Churches stay central and big, and then they plant an hour away in a different, city or town.
Yeah, they plant 30 minutes away in a community that doesn't have any churches as good as they are.
Right, yeah. So I hope that helps understand it. In some ways, it's just simple math. There's not enough people in this church at the size that we want to keep it to be able to minister to this whole town. So we have to have a solution, and this is what we believe our solution is.
Good.
So I have two questions I want to address. So one is it's just a question of the person feels like we're not quite big enough to be making any kind of split or rotation or whatever. I want to make it clear, if 0 of you go to Harvest Hills, that is totally fine. You're all welcome to stay here. We're not talking about taking a church and splitting it up. What we're talking about is finding new people in the new community that will start a new church. So when they were at the library, their first day, these guys had 27 people there. We are looking for 20, including Carl. We are looking for 27 new people. This is a new expression that we want to plant. And so it is totally fine. We love this community here. I'm kind of excited I get to stay. So we love this community. We are not trying to tear this community apart. We're not trying to split people up. You are all welcome to stay here. If some of you want to go, that's also okay. You don't have to stay here. But we just want to make sure that that's clear. The second question was a good one. It's like, what about the style of the services? Will they be the same at all the locations? So Devin is taking on the centralized role as worship pastor. And so Devin will make sure that all of the campus pastors know what we'll call it the Promise Church way is. This format will be the same. He'll have the songs that our worship pastors can pick from. We'll do dynamic voice at all of our things. We'll be doing the same sermons, like I said, but with their own flavor. And it's going to be, if you go from one Promise Church to another, it should feel very comfortable for you.
Yeah, and at the same time, it will feel very different, because although we'll be united under the same vision, so the idea of what we do on Sunday morning, it's a vision that has manifested in what this is. So the format and the way we've done things. This is actually not how we initially started the church format. It has changed over the years as our congregation grew because you guys had input and you guys had personalities and preferences. And so the idea is that the vision of the service and what we're trying to accomplish will be the same across all sites. But how it iterates will be reflective of the unique communities that God will bring together. So you guys are a unique community that God has brought together. And so we do things a certain way here to serve this function. At the next church, this function will be the goal, but it might iterate totally differently. I don't know, we could do 50 songs at the other site because that's where God's calling this community to be present. I'm not saying that's happening, but that could be an example of
and
what it would look
leaves.
like.
Yeah.
Right, sermons could be an hour long, and so there are so many things. There are so many things that we don't want to get attached to in the way we do things just for the sake of doing them. We want to keep reminding ourselves God has given us what we have here for a purpose, and it's as long as it's serving that purpose, it is good. And as long as things stop serving those purposes, we like to get rid of things that don't work and that aren't serving the vision. And it will be the same at other sites, serving the same vision.
So that just covered over a question that someone had at my table. Will each micro-congregation have its own input and its own micro-vision? Or will that be established by the cell's leadership too? That one is, we're going to have unique expressions under the same vision and mission and values and the same way of doing things. So it's really, really good. Someone said, to back the earlier statement about why are we planning 5 minutes away, what happens if we do hit more than 150 in this space? Do we tell people to go to our other space? No, we know that God will provide and we'll continue to grow in that way. Lots of really, really good questions here. Is there one more pressing question at your table, either of you? Because I'm really feeling the need for lunch. Anybody else with me? I'm totally open to continuing the conversation on Slack, or you can hit us up and be in conversation with us. But someone said we need a different word than campus because it might get confused with the campus church. That's, we are using the word site. And so we're trying not to use the word campus, partly for that reason.
Sometimes I get things wrong.
So we're going for site, just to get the language right. But God is good, and God is going to provide awesome things. We desperately need God. Yeah. And so this is the heart cry. Thank you for your engagement today. And I'm going to ask... I'm going to ask Pastor Danielle to close us in prayer, and then I'm going to invite the kids up. And so I'm going to step out while she prays for the food. I'm going to invite the kids up. We're going to have the children meet us in here, and then we will go and move into the room. So Pastor Danielle, you can finish off the service.
God, I just thank you that you are a good God, and that you are right now speaking to people who need to know you, that you're speaking to people who are feeling disconnected and are looking for a place to call home. And so as we spend this next, however long it takes, getting ready for the next step in our vision, Lord, I pray that you would just put in our hearts just a desire to see those that don't know you come to you, a desire to build into this community, a desire to pray that your will would be done in the town of Bradford, and that we would be able to be your light and your ambassadors for those around us. So as we gather now to eat, I pray that we would have good conversation, that we would experience good community, and that you would bless this food to our bodies. In Jesus' name, amen.